Welcome, everybody. So today I wanted to have a special speaker on, and I want to welcome Kamini Natarajan. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And on an auspicious day, the first
Oh,
day of
yes.
Navaratri.
Yeah, the first day of Navaratri, we just actually in the morning prepared everything for the puja, and we'll do it in the evening. But yeah, we are all super excited. Of course, it's a bit different this year, but yeah, it's all good still.
Still auspicious.
Yes.
So I just wanted to take a minute to introduce you to people who don't know you. So Kamini Natarajan is a Kirtan singer, a devotional singer, as well as a classical Indian singer. And I've been listening to some of your music lately, and I'm really inspired by it. But in addition to that, Kamini is an author of an ebook on a learning guide of 5 popular ragas for Kirtan. And just recently, I found out also you're a Grammy nomination for the Best New Age album, your album called Amrita.
Yes.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. Yes.
And for those of you who want to connect with Kamini, you can connect through kaminimusic.com, Kamini music.com, or on Facebook, as well as YouTube and SoundCloud.
Yeah. I'm not too much on SoundCloud, but yes, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Yes.
Wonderful. And I saw on Facebook you have, or excuse me, on YouTube, you have a lot of videos on like harmonium for Kirtan and some really interesting stuff for people who are looking to dive deeper.
Yeah.
So I had a couple questions before we get into the main subject. So, I enjoy singing Kirtan and love devotional music and really know very little about Raga.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, what a perfect opportunity to learn more and have other people learn more. But before we get into that main subject, I wanted to ask, what was your experience at a young age as a child? Were you deeply immersed from a young age in devotional music, or when did you come into that current of
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And as you said, I was deeply immersed in music and particularly in devotional music from a very, very young age. So my grandmother, she used to sing. She used to actually also narrate a lot of Hindu scriptures and narrate those stories. She used to bring all those characters to life actually, and she used to sing. She used to sing daily. She used to teach us all these little short bhajans and kirtans, and so did my mother. So she also, of course, she learned from her mother, and I started very young. And I remember all of them, saying that I started to sing before I could speak properly. So and so I was always into it. And I remember that I grew up in central India, in a state called Madhya Pradesh. And I grew up in mostly small towns. We traveled a lot, but there was always this one satsang bhajan group that my mom would find. And we will all, I have an elder sister, so both of us, along with my mom, would go attend those bhajans and take part in, like singing, or actually even like leading those, kirtans. So so that is how I kind of got into it. And then I was really interested actually, not just in devotional music, but learning the technicalities of music, exploring why certain things sound certain way, right? And exploring why a certain bhajan can make you feel very energetic, some can make you feel really calm, some can actually do both. you're so happy, but you feel the calm. So that actually led me more towards learning ragas and Indian classical music. Then I spent a lot of time actually learning classical music, some 12 years of like straight rigorous training. And I did that alongside my bachelor's in engineering, which of course, if you are Indian, you have to you have to be an engineer. No, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, I mean, I kind of, I had that division of both. So I liked doing both. So yeah, so I did that and I continued learning, exploring all of that stuff. And it has been a wonderful journey. I still learn because, I feel like there is no end to it, right? You can just, it's like an ocean. And any music, I'm not even just talking about Indian music or Indian classical music in particular. Any music, any art form, it just reaches the, it's infinite, right? You cannot just stop learning and stop growing. You have to continue.
Always deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
Now, is there a difference between classical Indian music and ragas, or are those intertwined?
They are intertwined. So when we say and when we talk about classical Indian music, there are two systems of Indian classical music within India. So the one that I learned is called Hindustani classical music, or it's also often called North Indian classical music, although it's not just confined to the north. It's in north, east, and west. And then in the southern part of India, there is another system called Carnatic music. So both of these forms, Hindustani and Carnatic, they both are basically called, Indian classical music. They both have ragas, they both have a lot of similarities, but they also have differences. North Indian classical music got influenced a lot by Mughal music, by music from all of those regions as well, versus South Indian, the Carnatic classical music, it stayed within those temple. It stayed a little bit, I would say, more authentic. Whereas North Indian classical music, you see shades of music from also other regions of the world. But it also grew. So, I mean, some of the raga names are similar. Of course, the 7 notes are similar. The way of rendering is a bit different. And the language is different, because Carnatic music is more of those, southern state languages. More often than not, they are in Sanskrit, they are in Telugu, the language of Andhra. Some of them are in Tamil, the language of Tamil Nadu. Whereas Hindustani classical music, it has all kinds of dialects of Hindi. It is also not purely Hindi. It is not purely Sanskrit either. Some of it is Sanskrit, but most of it is actually, it's kind of, dialect of that region.
That sounds like a lot to put together.
Yes.
So for somebody who has no idea, what is a raga? Do you say rag or raga?
You can say either. You can say rag, you can say raga, you can say ragam, like people in southern India say. So there is no, like one right or wrong there. People call it differently all the time. When you say what is a rag or a raga, it's very, very, like difficult question. Because there is like no one fixed answer. But the one definition that I really like to use is found in one of the older scriptures of Indian classical music. It simply defines rag as Ranjayate iti ragaha, basically meaning, something that brings out the colors of life is a rag. And I like the definition because really, I mean, we can say that in one way, it defines it defines the ascent and descent of, well, we can call it maybe a song or a piece of music, let's say that. And it basically provides a framework for people to improvise. So we can call it a set of rules, we can call it a set of fixed pattern of notes that we are supposed to sing. So Indian classical music, like be it Hindustani music or that Carnatic music, both of them are highly improvised. And that is where, then this raga and everything comes, because it basically, if I sing a raga, and if you listen to another singer singing that same raga, we will render it a bit differently. Of course, the essence will remain the same. We will both technically be singing the same thing, right? I mean, musically, but still it will sound different because, I will sing it out of my experience, right? So raga to me is, it has its own personality. It's like a person, it's like a friend. You befriend a rag, you kind of, start to know what makes that rag happy, what brings out certain emotions. And then you kind of, imbibe all those features of a rag and you start to improvise on it. So raga is that it's kind of, yeah, like technically speaking, it's basically a pattern of notes, is what we can call it. But, it doesn't end there. That's the, yeah.
Because I know like certain musical scales, let's say if we just look at a piano and Western music,
Yeah.
There's certain patterns that you choose that'll evoke certain emotions or certain distances between the keys that evoke certain mental patterns. But I think maybe raga goes even deeper into that.
Yeah, raga goes deeper because, so basically when we deal with music, of course, right? I mean, we talk about 12 notes, right? I mean, well, 7, but then, 5 other notes, a total of 12 within an octave, right? Raga goes deeper than that. And that, because, we deal then with 22 shrutis and microtones, right? So there can be a rag that has that minor third, but it's a bit more flat than the minor third that is found on the keyboard. And there are rags that have that minor second, but but a slightly higher minor second than what is found on a keyboard, right? So yeah, so those little subtle changes, I think they bring in the essence of raga a lot. And also, those little short phrases that gets repeated over time, kind of like, motifs, those also kind of, bring out the essence of a raga. So we can call it a scale in one way, right? I mean, that would be a very, very basic way of, thinking about a raga. But then there are these subtle changes. And also, one thing is that there can be technically, and there are actually, in fact, two different ragas that have the exact same scale. Yeah. So, for example, there is a very popular pentatonic scale. Gets used in Kirtans all the time. It's very bright, very happy. And I think not just Indian music, that pentatonic scale is found worldwide, a lot in African music as well. So it has the root second, third, it omits the fourth, and it omits the seventh. So, for example, if I'm singing like this, let's see. Sa, sa, re, ga, pa, dha, sa, dha, pa, ga, re, sa. Yeah. So there is a popular name for this. There is a rag called Bhupali in North Indian music. But there is also another rag which has the exact same ascent and descent called Deshkar. Now, the only difference between both these ragas is the fact that Deshkar revolves more around the higher octave notes. And Bhupali is more of the middle and lower octave. And the way you render them, that makes a big difference. So each of these ragas actually, all the ragas actually, they have two notes that kind of, dictate how we will improvise. We can think of them as, kind of king and queen notes called in Hindustani music. We call them Vadi and Samavadi. So these two make a big difference in how we render the raga. So, so both the scales are kind of the exact same scale, like there is no variation. But if this Vadi and Samvadi note changes, then that basically makes another raga. And not only that, it also kind of changes the time of the raga. So each raga has a particular time of the day when it is supposed to be, when it basically, it's not like you cannot sing it any other time, but it's more like that is the time, right, for singing it. But if the scale is the same, you change these king and queen notes, that changes the raga, but that also changes the time when it is sung. So it is, it goes to that granular level, and then, and then some, basically. So it's very interesting, like the more you learn, and then when you start learning more and more about these shrutis, the microtones, then that opens up a huge ocean of knowledge on its own, because those very subtle changes make a huge difference. So for example, like in Western music, I know there is this concept of major and minor, right? And when we say more, and easily, I think a lot of people think of major as happy, minor as kind of a sad, right? So that kind of a concept stays, of course, in Indian music as well, but then it goes a bit down. So, for example, that minor third, right? That is one of the more recognized sad notes. But there is a note that is called that is a bit flatter than that minor third in Indian music. So, for example, if I sing sa, that is my root. So sa re ga, that is the minor third, right? But if I do sa re ga, that is a bit actually lower than the minor third. And not only it's a bit lower, it also the way you oscillate it. So for example, instead of doing sa re ga, if you do sa re ga, right, that those subtle changes, those are really important.
And what type of effect do these different techniques have on the human mind, psyche? And some people are just like, oh, it's music, but it's actually an instrument of harmonization.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Oh sure, yes, I love to talk about that. Okay, so different notes bring out, of course, different emotions, right? And not just one single note, but also a combination of notes, right? So for example, when we go to this let's call it a bit more minor third, that note is actually supposed to be really connected with stress. That is, used for, that's actually well used in, of course, a lot of ragas, but as a part of music therapy, the ragas that are kind of used to heal, I would say, or help, I should say, stress and disorders of blood pressure. All of those ragas use this minor, the bit more minor third. We call it Ati Komal. Komal means flat, so we call it Ati Komal. That third and also seventh, actually. There is a seventh, a bit more minor seventh. So that Shruti and this Shruti, they both get used in those ragas. Then there is this one minor second, right? Minor second, minor sixth. Those two notes are actually used heavily in early morning meditation ragas. And those are also used a lot in actually kirtans, bhajans, and all of those stuff. But they are for awakening, they are for actually, a gentle energizing, not like getting up and dancing, but like a gentle morning, like the sunrise basically, and they are specifically sung at that time because of that. Then there are ragas that have that sharp fourth. I don't know what we call it in Western music. It's augmented fourth, I don't know. I just call it a sharper fourth. Yeah, F sharp if we are in the key of C. Although C is not always Sa, right? I mean, Sa can actually be anywhere, but if C is Sa, then F sharp is the note that I'm talking about, the sharp fourth. That one is supposed to be for the night time. That one is supposed to be, like grounding you back, basically, and then actually letting you sleep, right? So that again is actually used for a lot of kirtans, because it's that calming, it's that grounding raga. So these different notes, so we kind of spoke about all of these. Of course, then the major notes, right? The combination of the major third, major fifth, in terms of Indian music, G and P, though, and that interval between notes, right? The interval of three, that is supposed to be very like high energy. That is supposed to, make you actually get up and dance. In lot of these kirtans, even actually when you hear a lot of Western kirtans, people who may not maybe know about Indian ragas as such, but they are musicians and they sing kirtans. Lot of times, if you actually like kind of decode that, it is in that rag, and it comes in that that intervals of three. And that kind of that interval of three, it can be any kind of that pentatonic. So for example, this sa re ga pa da da pa ga re sa, that same pentatonic scale. And or even this sa re ma pa dha sa dha pa ma re sa. Both of these are, of course, like two distinct tracks, two distinct scales, but both of these are kind of used. So that interval of thirds, that is really important. And then there are rags that have that kind of a romantic feel to them. A lot of these rags are used for Krishna in those chants, Krishna and Radha. They all tend to have that regular kind of a minor seventh, rags such as these. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni dha pa sa ni dha pa sa. And also the use of actually both the sevenths. That forms a very interesting, that brings out a very distinctive, interesting emotion as well. So if I do sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa, sa ni sa ni da, that also is kind of used for that. It's like it's teasing you, right? Both those seventh, the use of the minor seventh as well as the major seventh, it kind of gently teases you around. So it has that a small childlike playfulness to it, often used again with Krishna, Radha, and of course to bring out that emotion as well, and to also make you feel that way. So so each of these, if we change these little notes, basically they bring out that particular emotion in you.
Oh, I just love all this. One time I sat down and I thought, oh, I'm going to learn a raga. And, I went on YouTube, and it was kind of complicated, but I sat there and tried to sing it up and down, up and down, up and down. And then I thought, what's the easiest way to do this other than practice?
Correct.
And then I thought, well, which one do I want to start with? And why do I want to start with it?
Yeah.
Where do I start with this? And what kind of instrument do I use to learn these? And, like for instance, my spiritual name is Kalavati. So I found out there was
that is a rag called Kalavati.
and I was like, oh, well, I want to learn that one. And it wasn't as easy as I thought. So what kind of tip would you have for people who want to just, like, they don't know anything about it, but they really want to try to learn?
Okay. So for them, I would start with, if language is a barrier, start on an instrument that lends itself to Indian classical music. And I know that, and I do it myself. I sing kirtans with harmonium. Harmonium, keyboard are not really a good instrument to learn Indian classical music. They are good for kirtans. Not really good for Indian classical music because you cannot play those microtones on it. And maybe, early on, maybe it doesn't matter, but I feel like, if you are going to, like spend that time learning something, learn it maybe on an instrument such as a violin, or pick up maybe sitar, or such instruments. They are really good. Or of course vocal, right? That is for me, of course, being a vocalist, that comes easier to me, so I can talk about that, of course. But I would say, like spend time learning the differences, because when we grow up learning certain music, it stays with us, right? And then give time for yourself to kind of unlearn. Of course, you're not going to unlearn what you have learned, and probably that is actually not the goal, to unlearn all the Western music that you have spent your lifetime learning, but find these new ways, right? So for example, even when we sing, there is those little subtle, very subtle intricacies that that make it sound Indian, right? So learn those, pay attention to those. So sa, right? Those little sa, those little embellishments, right? They make it Indian. They make it Indian, right? Because if I sing sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa, sa ni dha pa ma ga re sa, it could be any music, right? Kind of, of course, if I sing it, it will end up sounding Indian, but But that is universal. But then if you want to give it Indian flavor, it's like cooking, right? You have to use Indian spices, you have to put turmeric, you have to put chili powder, you have to use coriander, garam masala in it to make a dish Indian tasting, right? So similarly with music, you have to add those spices in, and spend time on those, spend time perfecting those spices would be my advice. Because I have seen and heard so many people who as such theoretically know a lot about Indian music, but the one aspect that they miss out is on these spices, because maybe they use a bit too little, and or maybe they use a bit too much. uh,
Too much turmeric. It doesn't taste good.
I know, yes. Yeah. So yeah, so spend time in that is would be my advice. And pick one raga and don't rush, because in the end of the day, it is not the number of ragas that somebody is going to like ask you, oh, how many ragas do you know 200, then you are better than the other person who knows only 100, right? I mean, it's not that, right? And as a student myself, I can tell you that I have learned uh, the first rag basically anybody learns, most people learn, is a rag called Yaman. It's a nighttime rag. It has that sharp fourth, rag Yaman. So that I have in my lifetime so far at least learned 5 or 6 different times, like starting all over again, like starting from the very basic. And each time you discover something new. So it's not like once you learn a raga it is done, okay, now move on, right? I mean, you have to like keep exploring it, because it is improvised music. The more you explore, the more you will learn about how you approach that particular raga. So don't stop, and don't feel like if days become months, don't don't feel like you have to like now move on to the next rag. It takes time, and each rag will take a different amount of time as well. And you have to kind of know that about you. So for me, I know that I have that kind of, I don't know, it's maybe just me, but I gravitate more towards the morning time ragas, the ones with the minor second, minor sixth, and or I also gravitate towards kind of that evening-ish ragas that also have that minor second, minor sixth, but they have that sharp fourth. So they are very, kind of very nice sound to me, right? So I gravitate more towards them. I learn them quicker than I do the other ones. Yeah. And it would be different for each person.
I like how you discussed earlier how each rag almost has like its own personality. And
Yeah.
so, I would assume the longer you spend getting to know that personality,
Yeah.
the more expression would come through you when you're singing,
Exactly.
or the
Exactly.
more harmonizational effect it would have.
Yeah.
Now, in your ebook, A Learning Guide to 5 Popular Ragas for Kirtans, do you go over like the morning one, an evening one?
Yes.
And is it a read, like you read it and then you learn, or is there an audio accompaniment? Because
Yeah.
for
So
me, when I play an instrument, it's a little that's a distraction. But if I hear somebody singing it, then okay, then I can mimic it.
yeah. Yeah. No, so it has both. So it is, of course, a visual guide. So it has notations both in Western and Indian music system, but it also has a lot of audio clippings.
Oh,
So for each, and they are very short, so that like it's not like you are downloading like 15 MB of whatever. It's like a quick 30-second, 1 minute audio clippings that you can kind of put on loop and then sing over. And for each of these ragas, so I start actually with Yaman, of course, because I mean, yeah, Yaman is kind of, one of the first ragas that anybody learns. And it is also actually used a lot for Ganesha Kirtans. So it has Yaman, which is a nighttime rag. Then it has Bhairav, which is a morning time rag. Bhairav is often associated with Lord Shiva. Bhairav is actually another name for Shiva. So, and it has that minor second, minor sixth combination, which is my favorite. So, of course, it has to be there. Then I think there is one kind of a major scale called Bilawal. It is a daytime kind of a rag. Then there is Khamaj, which has that minor seventh, which is used for a lot of Krishna bhajans. So that is there. And then there is a rag called Bhairavi. So Bhairavi is also the name for Parvati. And Bhairavi is the rag that has all minor notes. So it has Sa, and then minor second, minor third, then fourth, then of course, fifth, then minor sixth, minor seventh. And it's a very unique rag because a lot of people actually do not sing it in that very pure fashion. What they actually do is mix in all 12 notes to make it a bit more, of course, complicated. So no, but it's a beautiful rag, often used to sing all the Devi bhajans and kirtans. So that is there as well. But yes, for each of these rag, there are, I think, around 21 different audio files.
Oh, nice. And
yeah, and if you click on it, I think it should technically play. Yeah.
And you go into the details also, like which one is for commonly used for Ganesha and things.
Yeah. I go into that. And what I have done is, so I know that a lot of people who want to just, learn how to sing kirtans and want to, get that essence of raga into it, aren't necessarily trying to become a full-time Indian classical musician, right? So to give them that much information did not, it did not make sense to me. So what I have done is introduced ragas, of course, like giving them the patterns, giving them all these king notes, queen notes, giving them those phrases that are used often in a rag. And then I go over a little composition that we call sargam, which basically, teaches you the raga, right? It's like the first introduction to a raga. And then what I have done is I have added a kirtan in that rag.
Nice.
And that kirtan, again, of course, it has the lyrics, it has the notations. And in notations, I kind of, I have that Western notation system and the Indian notation system. So whatever is easy for, somebody, because I know that those notations, they make sense, right? Depending on what you have learned. For me, I can read and I can, of course, write the Indian notation system very easily. Western notation system, I have to use my brain. I have to really think, and then I can make it out. All of these different elements, they each have their own audio recording.
Another question. So I'm finishing up an album right now, and then I'm always just kind of fiddling around in devotional music and stuff. Would you say that it would be a more auspiciously offered song, let's say to Ganesha, in the appropriate rag?
I would say so.
Like if
I would say so.
let's just say, you know, make up a story. If he came over for dinner,
Yeah.
would he be more delighted that the kirtan to devotion would be in that rag?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so because, it's not just particular, okay. So let me put it this way. I feel like when we talk about these deities, they also have their own personality, right? So for example, Krishna, he's the playful one. Then we have Shiva, he's the more serious one, the meditator. Then we have Ganesha, he's the one, like who is blessing everything and generally happy. A good start, right? That is why we start everything with a prayer to Ganesha. Then there is Devi, and depending on what Devi, each one has her own personality. So, and then they connect with these ragas in that way, is what also I would say. So for Krishna, it won't harm you if like sing a Krishna chant, let's say in Yaman. But it would be more, it would make a bit more sense if you sing to Krishna in that rag called Kamaj, which has that minor, which has that playful personality. So it's like clothing, right? For example, I like wear these Indian kind of looking, and even when I go shopping in this country, I gravitate towards clothes that are kind of Indianish looking, right? And I wear these clothes; they look good on me. But that comparison, right? I mean, if somebody else was to wear this, maybe they won't be that comfortable. They may look very good in it, they may not feel very comfortable in them, right? So it's like that is what I can say, right?
Yeah,
So
I was also thinking of the analogy. If you know that your guest who you're
yeah,
honoring
yeah,
loves pudding,
yeah,
rice pudding,
yes.
but you serve tapioca,
Yeah,
it, it's close, but
yeah,
they would be even more delighted with the rice pudding.
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm looking forward to deepening my own expression of devotional music and exploring these. Um, oh, gosh, do I have any other questions? Now I'm just excited. Tell me more about your new album coming up. Well, it's
Oh
already
yes,
released, right?
it is released, and actually this year I released two, just because I was working from home and I had time. So, and all the events, all the festivals, everything got cancelled. So then I channelized my time and energy into completing these unfinished albums. So there were two, one, and I both released kind of the same time. One released in, I think, end of July, and the other one in August. And I have a third one which is kind of there actually. And I'm just waiting because it just feels like I have been just releasing albums all this year. So uh, and both of them are pretty different. So the two that are released, one of it is called Chants for Meditation. It's a volume 2, because I did volume 1 sometime back in, I think, 2015 with the same producer. So that's Chants for Meditation Volume 2. It is more kirtan like. It has traditional instruments, of course, harmonium, kanjira, and it has veena. And it's nice. It's in one of those tracks we have Jayutal singing Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So that one has 9 tracks. It's wonderful because Ken Elkinson, who is the music producer for that, he has like some 2,000 tracks to his credit. And yeah, and so he is primarily a very, like, new age-ish music producer, but then he did that transfer meditation part 1 with me because he wanted to introduce more vocals and bring some Indianness, I would say, to it. And I like that combination as well myself. I like that very abstract kind of rich, lush backgrounds, and they kind of somehow always fit into one raga. So then I pick that and then I create vocals on top of it. So that album was done. And then the second one is actually an EP. It has 5 tracks, and it is with this other music producer called Oleg. And he has done some, very, very cool, very interesting things with it. He's a guitar player. He layered a lot of, string instruments on top of it. But not only that, he also actually added a lot of, like synthetic elements to it. So he calls it electroacoustic uh, instrumentation. And yeah, it's kind of become my own favorite as well. So whenever we drive somewhere, that is the one that is playing in my car all the time. And it's called Amrita. Yeah, it was very, very interesting working with him. And yeah, I love both these albums for, of course, like different reasons. One is a bit more traditional. It feels more comfortable to me. The transfer meditation one. Amrita, on the other side, it's very unique. It's very different from what I generally do. So I like that as well. So yes. And the third one that I said is in works is actually totally Indian. It has no electroacoustic stuff. It is like totally Indian traditional classical instrumentations and vocals.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear them. Oh, wow, wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. And really, I feel fortunate I've received an education
Oh, thank you.
through this process.
No,
And
I love talking about this. So yeah, I can go on for but thank you so much.
thank you. You've given me something to look forward to, another thing to learn, to add to the flavors of devotion and bhakti. And, I love the idea that you improvise with
Yeah,
the rags.
yeah,
That's something that is more challenging for me.
yes.
So I look forward to looking into it. So again, for those of you who are listening to this video, if you're interested in Kamini's ebook, it's a learning guide to 5 popular ragas for Kirtans. And where can they find that?
They can find that on my website and on Amazon. So it's actually called Indian Ragas for Kirtans. And yeah, and I think it's one of the fewer ebooks for Kirtans. Uh, there are not that many as of now. There are a few.
Right.
Yeah, but it is available on my website. It is available on
And your
Amazon.
website is kaminimusic.com.
Correct. Yes.
So Kamini music.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I had a wonderful time connecting. And now I want to learn how to sing ragas.
Yes, and good luck, and start, and just start, just start, and then you will keep exploring it, and you will love it the more you do it, right? I mean, and it is always challenging in the beginning, like anything else, right? But it gets easier and easier, and you will, find yourself immersed in it.
Well, and I also think that when it's done from a devotional standpoint,
Yeah,
one of my
yeah,
teachers always says, go into devotion like a child.
Yeah.
And so if I
Yeah.
start from the mind of a child, then,
Yeah.
it's easier
Yeah.
rather than, oh, this is difficult, or what am I going to sound like? But,
Yeah.
like a child singing a song
Yeah.
to their mother or
Yeah.
to Shiva,
Yeah.
it comes out of that purity of wanting to learn it for that purpose.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, many blessings on this auspicious day as well. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. And yes, happy Navaratri.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Kamini.
Bye.
And I look forward to listening and hearing more from you.
Same here. Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Namaste.